Hi, my name is Jim Gordon of Beers & Gordon.
Hi, I'm David Beers, Beers & Gordon. I'm here today to talk a little bit about a police report and how important it is. It's best to file a police report as soon as you can. You, of course, need to be concerned about your injuries and get medical attention as necessary. But once you've accomplished that, then you do need to make sure that you've documented with the appropriate police authorities, the accident has occurred and what your injuries are. This is particularly important if the person that struck your vehicle or caused the accident, even if there's no contact with your vehicle, but you struck something else as a result of other driver's negligence who then left the scene, you need to still report that incident so that you can file a claim against your own company if you're fortunate enough to be carrying uninsured motorist coverage.
Number one, it depends the type of accident. What that means is if there's an accident where it's what's called a hit and run, where someone hits you and they take off and you don't have any information about them, you want to file that report right away. In fact, with a lot of insurance companies, you have to file within 24 hours and report it to the insurance company in 24 hours and deny that claim, saying they don't believe that you actually were in a hit and run. So in that instance, you really want to make sure you call the police, you explain what happened, that you were hit and they went on their way, and this was the type of vehicle. And also there's a chance, not very often, but there's a chance they may find the vehicle if there's damage to that vehicle to the same side that you report. But there's sometimes a chance that there's a nearby surveillance camera from a traffic cam or even a business that they can pull from to try to find that. So it's important that you report that right away. It's valuable when you're talking with an insurance company because they want to see who the officer determined was at fault. Not that that's a ironclad determination at trial, because it certainly is not, but it certainly helps in the negotiating of a case with an insurance company that they see the officer determine who was at fault. If you can't, for some reason, sometimes there's a lot of accidents going on, it's raining really hard, and if it's on the highway, the Florida Highway Patrol will tell you we can't be out there for 2 or 3 hours, and you just can't wait for whatever reason. You gotta get your kids, you gotta get to work, get to class. Exchange information, if possible get it in writing or at least or video, admitting they're at fault if you can't file a police report.
A police report is required in many cases by the insurance policy language that you're going to be seeking benefits for to pay your medical expenses in Florida. Florida, of course, is a no-fault state, so typically the injuries you receive from an auto collision will be paid initially by your own insurance company. And to do that, you're going to have filed an appropriate police report so that the facts of the accident are documented.
The biggest point of filing a police report is protect yourself. And what I mean by that is protect yourself from the other person maybe denying later on that they were at fault for the accident. We've seen people exchange insurance information. They say, well, I exchanged insurance information, but I didn't cause the accident. If the police come to the accident scene, it's very rare that the person's going to lie to the police officer on what happened. Whereas after the fact, they may talk to a relative, they may think about how this is going to affect my insurance, and they'll just deny that they were even at fault for the accident. So that police report's really important to have everything documented. You have the VIN number of the other vehicle, you have the owner of the other vehicle, because sometimes that's different than the actual driver, which is important because there may be insurance from the owner and the driver. And you have the driver's information as well, and everything's detailed on that accident report that you're not going to have even if you just take a snapshot of a driver's license and insurance card. So that's why you'd want to file and look at doing an accident report.
In every case, we recommend you file a police report. So you would want to call the police from the scene of the accident or have someone call the police from the scene of the accident and file that report, have them come to the scene and do the report there. They'll do it for you. It's done electronically by the police officers there. The problem is if you don't file a police report, there's a ramifications to that. The ramification is you're dealing with an insurance company that may not have a report. And sometimes, unfortunately, people deny being at fault for the accident or even deny being there if a police report wasn't filed. So sometimes when people have minor accidents, they think, I'm not going to file a report, let's just walk away, let's go to our class or whatever we're going to go, or go to work, and I'm not going to bother with a police report. And then they find out later that the person's denying liability.
So police reports typically are taken from officers who are called to the scene of serious collisions. But in today's economy and particularly with the budgetary restrictions on law enforcement, frequently there are instructions given to injured parties who've been involved in a collision to move the vehicles out of the lanes of traffic and then to wait or to exchange drivers' information. That can be done at the scene, or frequently it's done with the assistance of a community service officer or someone who doesn't have full law enforcement authorities. But all of that is fine as long as the police report itself is ultimately created. As far as if the police feel the damages are not up to the required threshold in Florida, which is $500 of property damage or an apparent injury, then they may decline to create anything, even in a driver exchange form, in which case you still need to acquire all of the information about the other vehicle and report that to your own insurance company.
The best way to file a police report is to call the police from the accident scene, because that way they're going to be able to document everything. They're going to be able to talk to witnesses that are there. If you wait until after the accident and go in, you have to go into usually to the police station or to the substation, whatever you have to do, and file it in person. No one's going to be there. It's probably going to be yourself. There's not going to be your witnesses. There's not going to be the other driver. So you want to call from the accident scene or have someone call from the accident scene and have the police come to the scene, document the scene. I would recommend, because police don't take pictures, you take pictures of the scene and have them do it there. But if you can't, if for some reason, again, you can't do it at the accident scene, you have to go in the next day, you go in, tell them what happened, and bring in all the insurance information of yours and all the driver and insurance information of the other driver.
Some of the other issues with the police report is witness statements. So sometimes there's statements taken by police. Problem is, at the accident scene, everyone thinks that the police are going to take all these witness statements. Very often we find clients that say, I know there's another witness at the scene, he was an older gentleman, he was driving a van, and we don't have any witness statement from him. So if you know of a witness at the scene, get their information, get their cell phone number, if they have a business card, get their information, because a lot of times the police don't obtain witness statements. Or just recently, I was in a deposition 2 weeks ago with a trooper, and the trooper took a witness statement potentially in this case, but he had no means of logging those witness statements. He said, I basically put my witness statements that are written down in a manila folder on the chair in my car, and they get moved around, they get lost, they get spilled upon, and they don't always get into the report. So that was an indication to me that if my client had, luckily in that case, they had talked to the witness and they had the information, so the deposition and everything's been taken and it's been recorded. But had that not happened, we would never know what that witness said. In this case, it was favorable to my client. So always get all the witness information you can.
It depends if it's taken at the scene or after the accident. If it's taken at the scene, you're really not going to have to do anything in terms of providing them information. Basically, the officer's going to ask you, give me your license, give me your registration, and they're going to take all that information and plug it into the computer system, and it's going to spit out the report for the officer and later on for you.
The most important information will be the identifying information related to the driver, that is the driver's license number, and any other information you can get about the driver, as well as the vehicle, and specifically the VIN number and the registration that's on the vehicle that's involved in the collision. So if you have a camera phone possibility on your cell phone, you should take a photograph, a quick one, of the plate that's on the vehicle that was involved in the crash with you. And if you have the opportunity, you can step up to the driver's side window and maybe take a quick shot of the VIN number as well. Police records in Florida are not very uniform. So it depends on the agency that actually investigated the crash as to whether it will remain in the system for long or not. Typically, if it's an accident on a state road investigated by the Florida Highway Patrol, it will stay in the system and can be shown on your driver's license record even if you were not at fault. If it's a serious enough crash where there were injuries reported, it will still be on there as long as 20 years.
It depends on how long a police report may stay in the system. It really depends on what if it's Oviedo Police Department, Orlando Police Department, Florida Highway Patrol. Anymore, things are stored electronically. Everything's taken electronically, it's stored electronically. So it stays on there for years. And that doesn't really matter for a case per se, because it may only be 4 years. That's a 4-year statute of limitations, so there's only so much you can do with a case that happened more than 4 years ago. The important thing would be, if you have a case and you've had another accident previously, is if we can pull up that information as your attorneys, or you can pull it up yourself, and we can look at what happened in that accident, who the other parties were, any information that we may need. Because if we don't pull it up, certainly the defense is going to try to pull it up, or their insurance companies are going to try to pull that up if they can.
Another issue is how long will police statements stay on the system. It depends on the different, whether it's FHP, Oviedo Police, Orlando Police, they all have different standards, but that's going to be on the system for many, many years. You can pull it up electronically. All the police reports now are filed electronically. You have to pay if you're the victim, or if you hire an attorney, we know the system, we can go in and pay for that report. But they're all filed. It takes usually 3 to 5 days for a report to get uploaded. The only time it takes really much longer than that is if it's unfortunately a traffic homicide investigation. There'll usually be a crash report filed within about a 10 to 14 day period that just kind of generally explains the accident. But a traffic homicide investigation that'll detail all of what happened in that accident may not be filed for 9 months to a year. It's a very much more detailed report than you'll get with just a crash report.
The current state, as far as whether a police report can be filed online, this is an excellent question, and the current state of the technology being used by law enforcement, again, is not uniform. So far as we have encountered in 2020, you cannot file a police report online. You are permitted to file witness statements to the investigating officer online. Typically, I might add, these witness statements are not really relied upon for purposes of a traffic citation, but they are relied upon and are mentioned in formal traffic crash reports frequently by the investigating officer, even if the the witness wasn't face-to-face with the officer and just phoned it in or emailed it in some fashion. So it can be done if you feel that you are a witness and you want to make sure the correct facts of the accident are explained to the officer, and you couldn't stay and render aid because of the traffic conditions and or other circumstances.